Here. Now I want to have you take us through all the different ways,
okay.
And then I'm going to show you a downstream cast that a lot of people haven't thought about. What do we get? A fish?
Yeah, you just had a fish take your fly.
We don't care about that stuff. We're teaching. This is about teaching, not about catching. All right, and folks, I want you to understand we're fishing. When we say downstream, we're really fishing sort of downstream. It's below us. Right. But it's not pure downstream. Now I'm going to let Pete show you that, then I'm going to show you some pure downstream stuff.
Once again, what we have is something similar to drift boat fishing.
Right.
And I know not everyone drift boat fishes, but if you ever get in that situation, these are applicable to both things. So what I like to do is approach it kind of in the same situation that we approach these, except you kind of have an advantage here. You're probably not going to have any issues with your back cast. And also, if you're far enough up above the fish, they can't really see what's going on that's floating down to them. But beware, because if you walk down on them, they will see you because they're looking right up at you. Fish are 99% of the time they're looking up current.
But they've got this, Pete, they've got this window though.
Right.
And they've got some blind areas in that because they're looking up into the sky. Exactly. So you can get fairly close to them, but once that fly gets into that window, and that window changes by the depth that they're at. So if they're rising and they're close to the surface, that window's going to be a lot smaller.
Yeah, and you can get surprisingly close. That's a question that I get a lot of times when I'm teaching is, how close can I get and how do you feel where the window is? And you can look at all the diagrams you want in science books and things like that about where their sight window is. The best way I know is to get a feel for each individual fish, where their sight window is.
It's obvious that a downstream cast is going to get the fly into the window first rather than the line.
Right.
And we accomplish this with a variety of casts. And first of all, the one that's slightly downstream, which is the upper lower quadrant, the way I like to put it.
Breaking it into quadrants.
The upper part, right out here. So show us that cast, Pete.
You can just lay it in there.
But you're going to get drag right here.
Right. And if you go straight line, you're going to get drag instantly.
Right.
So you're going to need to do the aerial mends that we were talking about before. Right. You can use these same casts all the way down through here. Let's do that. Let's aerialize the mend.
Backing off the power.
And I'm adding a little line too. I'm kind of,
you just had a fish.
This is a reaction. I know we're in instructional mode, but
that's all right.
Got to do that, and I missed it, of course.
That's okay.
But anyway, back to that cast. If you got to aerialize the mend there, it's a nice one too. It's probably the one that I do first, I approach first when I'm walking up, especially if I'm working through a run pretty fast and I'm trying to be as effective as possible. So. These aerial mends, I think, are the one thing that can make you a better fisherman. The one thing that you really need to grab.
And I want to tell you, folks, that little exercise that we showed you just a few minutes ago is how you learn to do it over and over again in your lawn. And so when you get out on a stream, like what Pete's doing, it's all automatic. Look how nice and soft that was. Trying to get that fish now, aren't you? But you know, there's no drag. See a drag pull down.
Exactly. So this isn't the best cast for this spot right here. Let's try.
If you caught the fish, it would have been the best cast.
Yeah. Let's try to feed some line down to it. There's another option that you can actually morph these two casts into one cast. So let's do a reach cast.
You know, I love these youth here today. Morph.
And then
that wasn't even around when I was a kid.
And then feed a little line into it. And you can do it that way. So. That's also an option. You can also go back to what I call the S cast or Squiggle Cast and try that same spot right there. Stop the rod. Now we got a nice long spot right there for that inside corner. Right. And I can mend close to me too, which is a great option.
Using your rod tip.
Yep. Without moving the fly at all. So I get a nice presentation through there.
One of the things that's going to be hard for you out there when you first do this is that you're going to have the line hit the water very fast at first because it's going to be hard. You're going to try to do that back off too low in your cast. If you watch Pete do it here, it's higher in the cast.
I'll do one where it does an extreme tuck cast and flips over. Boom, like that. See how fast it came through? Yep. And you're going to be trying to back this off or feel it. Boom. See how fast that hits? If you're fishing a tiny dry fly, you don't want that to come in there. It does give you slack that you need, but it slams down pretty hard.
It's very important that you follow the rod all the way. If you watch Pete, he's going to follow it down to the water. It's a follow through like in any sport. See how he did that? Perfect. And of course, right now we're getting a little breeze, and that, of course, is that thing that we've said over and over again. Learn to accelerate and add a little bit more power. This is I don't know how you really tell people more about the practicing, but most people only practice on a good day. Yeah. You know, when it's not any wind out there.
It's getting late, it's windy.
Now, you practice this when it's windy, and the fishing isn't very good, and you're not catching anything. This is a time to cut off the big flies, put on something else, and go out and practice.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, Pete, I've got one cast to add.
Okay.
It's a fishing cast, and it's really not much of a cast. It's more of a technique. And it was first shown to me by Mike Lawson on the Henry's Fork, when he had to have an absolute straight downstream cast. Now, I'm going to wait out here. I want you to pledge that if I go floating away, you're going to come get me.
I'll blow the siren.
All right, Pete, this is the cast. Now, I don't know whether we put any name to it or whatever, but we're right straight on the pot of fish that are rising. And what we're going to do is make just actually a short cast. We're going to bring the rod tip back. You can actually just pull it back if you wanted to, just till you line it up with the fish. Now, look what I've got here. I've got slack line. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to let the fly float, and I'm just going to feed line to it, just like you did on that last S cast. Feed line, and it's now gone over the fish. The fish didn't take it. I'm going to let the line go all the way over until it's out of the fish's window, and I'm going to reach out like this, and then it's going to water ski the fly.
Right.
It's going to water ski the fly over there. Now notice that I've got this here. I'm going to strip it right back. You may have to change the fly. It's a lot of these casts are a one-time deal or a two-time deal. But more than likely, you're going to get it the very first go-around. Like, here we go. And I kind of keep it close, so if you make a mistake and you don't quite get it, you can pick it back up. Now, I'm out of the window here. I'm about 15 feet away. Now, I like that one. So again, I pull it out. And you're going to find that, that time it floated away from them, you know, out of their window where they didn't see it. And you got to make sure that it gets all the way out. And so this way, all we have to do is just pull back on that rod, make a short cast till we line it right up again, and then just feed the line. It's just another sneaky way of trying to get on a fish from the upstream.
It's a great way to do it too. It just adds another
dimension.
Another dimension and another attack plan for you.
Another attack plan. The next thing I want to talk about is something that you do a lot of in the summertime, and I'll bet you can't guess what it is. It's called untangling, right?
Oh, there it is, yep.
And you do that a lot because you use both strike indicators and nymphs and double fly systems.
A lot of multiple flies, yep.
And I'd like to go downstream here. There's a perfect riffle for some nymphing. We can't ever eliminate tangles.
Right.
We can cut them down, right? I hate to hear somebody say, I don't like to fish multiple flies because what?
Because you're going to get tangled, but there are many ways that we can help prevent that, and a lot of good tips. Let's go give it a shot.
Okay, so we do it. Let's go on down there. All right, well, this is a very common way where a lot of people that are introduced to fly fishing, they get a big indicator, and there's every kind of indicator in the sun, but they all have one characteristic. That's drag.
Oh yeah.
That will slow and take out energy from your cast.
It's got a mind of its own. It drags your fly around. It's also, like you said, hard to cast it.
You know the cast that you need in any of this indicator fishing, and it's a cast that we're going to talk about in a few minutes when we start throwing some bigger flies. It's a deep loop. And it's not a wide loop. Other people say, oh, it's a wide loop cast. No. It's a deep loop. It's more energy in the loop. The tighter the loop, which is what you're supposed to have for the cast, is the problem on this, because the tighter the loop, the more chance you're going to catch your indicator.
Exactly. You're not trying to win a tight loop competition out here when you're casting this way. So.
And so the real key is your back cast, folks. And Pete's going to demonstrate this, casting these indicators, and I'm going to kind of talk through a few things as you take us through it.
Now, sometimes you might see me also swing around in a little bit of a Belgian cast to try to open that loop up, because it kind of helps me throw a deep loop.
We keep bringing that Belgian in here.
I know. I'm not sure where it came from. It's kind of everywhere. See that pickup, how I kind of swing around?
Yep.
That's my way of kind of developing my
and that's
loop.
Good. Now, but one of the important things here, folks, is getting that energy in that back cast. Now, let's not do the Belgian and just do a pickup cast. Get that deep loop. We want to throw that back with a lot of energy. There you go. See how he's pulling down here?
I pull the butt section of the rod down, I like to call it almost like you're chopping down with a butcher knife.
Yeah.
Chop.
There you go. Okay, that's overemphasizing it. Now add your Belgian little touch there.
Okay, which is it just makes the pickup easier, and then you can come through and throw the deep loop there. Also gets the fly out of the way too. Either way it works.
You can still back off the power a little bit so your cast doesn't hit quite as hard. Yeah.
And you can lay it right down. Yep.
But if you stop right up here and try to put too energy and too short a stroke, what's going to happen?
Oh, you're going to slam it down.
No, but you're also going to tangle that fly in with the indicator.
Well, the loop's going to collapse. Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly.
And how many times have you taken the hooks out of the indicator?
That's one of the biggest problems next to the flies tangling.
And you know what helps you is that the weight of the indicator actually will help you make that cast. It'll want to pull out.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
All right, now let's talk about when it hits on the water. You were talking about you're immediately going to get drag, aren't you?
You are, and
look at that right there.
We talked about
belly.
Before aerial mending and adding loops and stuff to your presentation before it lands. You can do that with this too. It's a lot harder because you got this rig that you're throwing a deep loop with, but you can also throw it down and throw your mend in right away. I mean, like right away, right after it lands. So we're going to pick up a leaf here, but throw it in and get it in there early. Yes. And it's okay to move that, drag mend that a little. It's no big deal because the fish aren't going to eat that. Look how nice the drift. Now
he's fishing it downstream again. Now, can you cast that downstream the same way? Let's see, with a little bit of a reach mend cast.
A little bit of a reach mend cast.
Now notice how he pulled and took the rod tip up. Very important. Watch again.
Slack line cast.
Yeah, look how the rod tip went up there. Whoa, beautiful. And see, yeah, you're not going to get a real long, but you don't need it a lot of times. Immediately what's going to happen is that fish is going to grab the fly and you're going to see that indicator go downstream rather than straight down.
Right, you know right where he is. I mean, you only need so much to get through there. And you can also add it to a cast that's across and bring it all the way down so you get a longer float that way.
And what I want to do while we're standing out here, Pete, in this beautiful stream, is talk about another way that we do indicator fishing, and this is a very common way. It's two flies. Now, I know that you fish the South Fork, and you use a lot during the middle of the season, a lot of two dry flies.
Dry dropper, yep.
And where you use actually two dry flies, but this is probably the most common rig, right? The nymph dry, and this is going to be heavy, this is going to be light. And invariably, I watch people try to do like this, and the same techniques are going to cause you a problem if you do too much false casting.
False casting is not your friend here.
On this one is a problem because we got a dry fly. We can't slam that into the water. So what happens a lot of times, people stop right here to try to get it to settle down because of that nymph. And I'll tell you, first of all, you're going to get wind knots.
It's going to kick. The dropper's going to kick around and wrap. Yep.
And they're going to catch and try to mate.
Mm-hmm.
So again, a longer stroke. We're going to add more energy. We're going to shorten that. I say longer stroke. I'm going to change that a little bit. It's actually a shorter stroke, but it's longer. Look how the rod tip is going up in the air. I'm throwing the line up into the air. See right to there, and I'm coming down into the air. I'm pulling back on the rod, and it's settling. It caused the nymph to roll over rather than the dry fly to hit and the nymph to hit back towards you.
Exactly. That's a great point right there.
As you come up, now look at the angle of where we're at. Now look at the difference if we do a traditional overhead. Oh, there you go. What can I see? Look up. Does that look familiar?
Oh, I can sense it coming. I don't even. I can just like, oh, here it comes, and then loops on itself and it's tangled.
So what you want to do, if you have to make a false cast, you point it up, you follow it. Look how my arm. Look at right here. If I stop it right here, look how my arm is. How long is my rod right now?
10 feet. 10 and a half feet because
well, if it was yours, it'd be 14 feet.
Yeah,
a little critter like mine.
Well, you've added a foot and a half.
Very important. We've added leverage.
Yep.
As we come by. Now watch, if I back off, I can pull it back. Look how it landed. And you know, this is some of the best fishing that you're going to have, especially when you're fishing to rising fish.
Oh, it's great. I mean, it's probably the best option that we have out west is dry dropper. I love it. And it's getting to be common amount. You know, you fish in the World Fly Fishing Championship, and in Spain, that was the thing that got us in the running, wasn't it? That was the thing. The cool thing was the Americans did a lot of dry dropper fishing, and the Europeans really weren't into it that much. And it really gave us an advantage because the fish were spooky in Spain, and we had to get nymphs over them, but we couldn't just storm up on top of them with traditional like Polish nymphing styles. And so that was our ability to get over there and get right over into their feeding lane.
One of the things I want to talk to you about is minimizing your false cast over fish. And one of the ways that I do it, and you had talked about it when we first started, is that we're out here and like the fish is right up there rising.
Right.
Oh boy! Now I want you all to know that you never know when you're going to catch a fish.
How come that doesn't happen to me?
Well, what do we have here, folks?
It's a nice fat whitefish.
Hey, a whitey! Rocky Mountain whitefish.
Idaho mountain whitefish.
Yep.
It looks healthy.
Yeah, it looks healthy. Loves nymphs, doesn't he?
Yeah.
We've got a fish rising up there.
Okay.
And if I take and put this fly line over him like this, I can put him down.
Absolutely.
I want to do one cast. So one of the things I'll do, especially when I'm stocking like this, I'll come up like this and I'll measure my cast out, Pete, right behind it. And I'll keep it out of the water and say, there's a fish there. I'll go 1, 2, boom. And I've already measured my cast.
Right, behind you, so you know you got it.
And you were measuring over here. That's another way to do it. But why not stock with your line behind you? And this is a technique that we use when we do spring creek. So we don't do a lot of false casting. It's already measured, already have the line out. And we know the distance. We can throw one over like that just to test it. But boom, pull down. And it works so good with a dry dropper technique.
Plus, you've added another component, which is the water load, which is real effective. I mean, it's
very effective.
It's a nice cast. There's not a lot of false casting. I mean, it basically eliminates the false cast.
It does, but of course you got to have water.
Yeah, and a little bit of moving water.
And I can do it up the bank too. I can just stay on the bank and let the fly line go here and just kind of walk. Every once in a while, it does happen like that whitefish.
Yeah.
You know,
swinging flies.
Swinging flies. That's right.